Hey, what's up? It's Justin with NRN, and welcome to the recap, the first one of 2018. We got our first dose of racing for the year, the Clash. And boy, it was actually a pretty good race. A 75-lap sprint race, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was good. A good look at what the Daytona 500 is going to look like. And the one big takeaway that I saw after the race was, man, these cars are handling so poorly. You're gonna have to really get your car handling right. That is where you're gonna win the race. The car that is handling the best, because these cars looked all over the place. They were slipping and sliding out there, and you could see it on TV. You could see their hands in the cockpit working that wheel, sawing on that wheel, trying to keep that car going straight. It looked like a doozy. I cannot imagine what it's like to run over 200 miles per hour. Yes, over 200 miles per hour with cars on either side of you while you are crashing going straight. I mean, it must be insane. The stones it would take, but they're handling it well. And it was a lot of fun to watch. It was a good race. They put on a good show. But I think that's the one thing that I saw right now, is that handling is going to be key. And the 17 drivers that were in this race got a really good look at how their car is going to perform, so now they're a little ahead of the game. That's why the Clash was so important this year. A race scenario. How does our car perform in a race scenario? Now we know. And I tell you what, the Fords right now are really, really strong. Towards the end of that race, the whole front pack of that thing was basically Fords. All three of the Penske Fords were leading the race. Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, and Ryan Blaney took the white flag. 1, 2, 3. Brad Keselowski would go on to win the Clash, and he started dead last. But his confidence right now is crazy. This morning, he went on Twitter and said he was going to win the race. And what's he do? He goes and he wins the race. Yep. But it was a good test session for them 17 drivers, because now they have a little something on the rest of the field when they get to the Thursday duels. They have a notebook now. They can go back and debrief and start working on the car and getting it ready for Thursday. So when Thursday rolls around and they have to go out there and qualify, they've got a little something more on the rest of the pack. They also have this. This was a good test session for the pit crews. You know, they changed the rules on how you do a pit stop over the off season. So that first pit stop, the only pit stop in the Clash, that was our first look at how these teams are going to react with the new changes. And it looked to be a bit awkward. In fact, even some of the pit crew guys were talking about how a little awkward that exchange was, but it looked like it went on okay. The stops were a little slower than they normally are, but that's to be expected. They'll only get quicker as they come up with a system. But for those first few races, I think, that are going to be in the season, I think a lot of those races are going to be won and lost on pit road. It's already difficult enough to pass in NASCAR right now. Passing cars isn't like what it used to be. And this is basically because of the way the cars handle. They don't handle all that well. And it makes passing really difficult. So if you can gain 3 to 4 positions in pit road, I mean, that could be the difference between winning and losing right there. And these 17 teams got to do a pit stop. You can practice your pit stops throughout the entire offseason. Every day you can practice. But there is nothing like having to do a competition race pit stop with the other teams. Now you get to see where your crews are at. And it looked to me like the best pit stop of the day was actually the Kurt Busch crew. The number 41 Monster Energy crew. They seemed to have the best stop, changing 4 tires. Now Brad Keselowski was able to get the lead of the race, but he only took 2 tires. But for a 4-tire stop, Kurt Busch's crew seemed to do it the quickest. But the last lap of the race was really exciting. Brad Keselowski took the white flag. Ryan Blaney made a move on his Penske teammate to try and get the lead, but he made a bit of a mistake, took it too early, lost the draft. That moved Joey Logano up to second place. When they got to the backstretch, that's when all hell broke loose, and 7-time NASCAR champion Jimmie Johnson crashed for the 7th year in a row during the Clash. For 7 straight years, Jimmie Johnson has not finished the Clash. He would crash along with Chase Elliott, who drove one hell of a race at the start. He was fun to watch, making all kinds of moves. He and Austin Dillon put on a heck of a show at the start of the race. But sadly, Chase Elliott wouldn't make it back to the start-finish line. Martin Truex Jr. was also involved in that one, along with Kyle Busch and Kasey Kahne. The only other crash during the race was Jamie McMurray. He was involved in a crash with Kurt Busch again. Kurt Busch kind of got into him a little bit there, but that also might not, I'm sure it wasn't even his fault. It was probably more of just the handling. Kurt Busch went to make a move on Jamie McMurray, and they kind of tangled, and it might have just been because the cars handled so poorly. I'm sure that wasn't anything he meant to do. There's no reason for Kurt Busch to mean to take out Jamie Mack. I'm sure the cars are just handling so poorly. But with the crash erupting on the backstretch, that made it really easy for Brad Keselowski to keep the lead, cross the start-finish line, and win the first set of races for the Daytona Speed Weeks. Bad Brad in the Miller Lite Ford. And I'm thinking Brad Keselowski might be one you need to watch. He actually might win the Daytona 500 this year. The official finishing running order would be Brad Keselowski would be first, Joey Logano second, Kurt Busch would be third, Ryan Blaney fourth, Austin Dillon, who started on the pole, would finish fifth, Denny Hamlin, who is probably one of the best restrictor plate racers right now in the league, would finish sixth in his Toyota. He would be the highest finishing Toyota. And then it's a pair of Toyotas behind him. Teammate Kyle Busch and Eric Jones would be 7th and 8th. Kevin Harvick didn't make a whole lot of noise in the race, but he would finish 9th. Kyle Larson would be 10th. Ryan Newman 11th. Jimmy Johnson 12th. Chase Elliott 13th. Martin Truex Jr. 14th. Kasey Kahne 15th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. would be 16th. And Jamie McMurray would be 17th. That is the finishing order for the 2018 Clash. And Alex Bowman, who has big shoes to fill this year taking over the ride for Dale Earnhardt Jr., would get the pole in his Camaro ZL1. What a start to the season. His first ever attempt at the Daytona 500, and he qualifies on the pole with a lap time of 46.0 seconds. That's an average speed of 195.6 miles per hour. 2.5 miles and 46 seconds. That is flying, folks. But Alex Bowman would get the pole, which means he's secured. Even if he doesn't run in the duels on Thursday, he still has the pole. And then qualifying on the outside of him would be Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin in the number 11 will start second. And now the rest of the field will have to race on Thursday to determine where they finish in the running order. And I'm happy to announce that this year's duels will be held at night, which means that you can actually watch the race. I don't know why they just started doing this now, because in years past, you couldn't watch the duels because it was in the middle of the day on a Thursday. I was either at work or at school. I couldn't watch it, but this year they're at night. You'll actually be able to get to see them. But yeah, Alex Bowman had some big shoes to fill, because taking over the 88, which, you know, the most popular car out there, would not be an easy task for most. And there goes Alex Bowman getting the pole. But again, the Chevys are quick by themselves, but they've got some work to do if they want to keep up with the rest of the pack during the race, because they just didn't look all that quick in the race. But speaking of the Camaro, did you see this actually? This is kind of off topic, but did you see this? They're bringing the Pontiac Trans Am back. That's right, the one from Smokey and the Bandit. Like one of my favorite cars ever. One of my favorite movies, you know, with Burt Reynolds, Sally Fields, and Jackie Gleason as Sheriff Buford T. Justice. Yeah, they're bringing the Pontiac Trans Am back, and basically they take your Camaro and they just kind of convert it into a Trans Am. But it still looks sharp. It's got the bird on it and everything, black and gold, just like the one in the movie, and Burt Reynolds is even signing the cars, I heard. But it's still not technically a Pontiac Trans Am. Pontiac doesn't even make cars anymore. It's still a Camaro that looks like a Trans Am. So it would be like, I don't know, dating a celebrity lookalike. She looks like Jennifer Lawrence, but she's not Jennifer Lawrence. But it looks sharp, and that Camaro out there in the race, it looks sharp. It looks really cool. I like all the pointed angles on the front of the car. Of course, that's going to make it really difficult for bump drafting. But I like seeing a Camaro out there in NASCAR. And Toyota and Ford should spruce their cars up a bit to make them look real sporty and racy like that Camaro does. It looks sharp. It's going to be fun to watch in the 500. But that's the recap. Brad Keselowski winning the first race of the year, the Clash. And now we move on to the duels. Alex Bowman and Denny Hamlin are your front row for the Daytona 500. That is not going to change. Young Alex Bowman getting his first career pole at Daytona in his first running attempt at Daytona. And by the way, none of the cars are going to go home early. 40 entries are allowed into the Daytona 500 this year, and only 40 entries showed up. So everyone who goes to the Daytona 500 is going to make the race. So that's cool. Nobody will go home empty-handed. Everyone's going to have a spot to play. And now we move on to the duels Thursday night. So stay tuned to NRN for all that coverage. And I'll see you Thursday night. Take it easy, everybody. I'm Justin. Have a great week.